Hello, welcome to the Ghosts of Harrenhal. My name's Simon.
And I'm Mackelly.
Thank you for joining us for episode 78 of our chapter-by-chapter book review of A Song of Ice and Fire by George Martin. Today we'll be discussing Chapter 4 of A Clash of Kings, Bran 1.
As always, we're going to chat about the chapter and try not to spoil any future plot points for you. And hopefully, we'll provide you with some entertainment along the way.
We'll summarise what's happened, discuss our thoughts on it, provide some useful background, compare it to the television show, indulge in a little pedantry, and cover some reader mail. Be sure to check out the show notes, they'll help you along, especially if you're not reading with us. How are you, Mackelly?
I think I'm better than you.
Oh yeah, I've got a bad neck, which is kind of, and it's funny. It's since we got a new bed, I've been having the bad neck.
Huh.
It's weird.
That is.
It's because
you think it would improve your spine alignment and stuff.
It's because the dogs love the new bed, and I'm getting less and less room on there, and so I wake up sort of like curved around them with my butt out in the wind, and sort of like there's tension in my neck to hold onto the bed.
You need to go back into quarantine and sleep in that bed behind you there.
That's true. Yes.
So, do you like that pic I sent you yesterday?
Yeah, that's the quintessential pic of our sons.
Yes, gosh, that was back when we used to carpool together. I was up in the attic. Can't even remember why I was up there. I was looking for something, obviously, not just hanging out. And I came across this picture of Ethan and Lucas. And based on Lucas looking to be about 2, I would guess Ethan is about 5. Something like that. Right. Ethan was preschool age and Lucas was not even preschool age yet.
No.
So I took a picture of it and sent it to Simon.
They're super cute. They're just sort of sipping from sippy cups, and they just look adorable.
Yep. Yeah. They are no longer quite so little.
Nope.
So, I don't go on to Facebook much these days, other than to our Ghosts of Harrenhal Facebook page. So, if you haven't followed us on there, please do so. Anyway, I did check it out the other day because I'm on a Twitter hiatus. I just can't take Twitter any longer, excluding our Ghosts of Harrenhal Twitter account. My personal one I'm on a hiatus from. I just can't take it anymore. So I went on to Facebook, and this person I graduated high school with said that they this past Sunday they ordered wings and everything, and they went and picked it up, and we're all ready to watch the Super Bowl and put it on, and could not find it. Like, what channel is this game on? You'd think I would know. Yeah, it's next Sunday.
That's like, you remember my mum and sister going to my aunt's funeral a week early.
Yeah.
Apparently.
She was like, it's a good thing I got my my wings order in early, I guess.
Yeah.
Freeze those things till next week.
That just reminded me of something, actually. I was trying to think. Lucas and I crawled under the crawl space to we were checking to see if any of the insulation had fallen down out of the crawl space.
Well, if you're going to do it in the winter when there's less spiders.
True. It was pretty muddy, though. It's kind of like soggy down
because it never stops raining here in the rainforest that we live in. Monsoon season, apparently.
The problem is where it had fallen, because some of it had fallen down. I just noticed the house was feeling a little bit cold, so I thought I'd check it out. Where it had fallen down, it had landed in the muddy mud, and so now it's too heavy to stick up there by itself. And you have those little metal, you have little metal prongs that sort of hold it up.
Just tension weight. They just do it by tension, though, right?
That's right. They're just a little bit longer than the gap, and so you just stick them in there. Yeah, they've corroded away to nothing. So I had to go and get a whole new pack of those. And I went to Home Depot. I bought them at Home Depot, and I thought I was going to do curbside pickup. So I sort of did all that, and I went and I got to the curbside pickup parking spot, and it said click a link in your email. So I went to the email I got from them, and I clicked the link, and it came up straight away like, oh, curbside pickup is closed for the evening. I was like, oh, great. So then I went into the store, and
That's
I explained.
Useful.
She said, all right, we'll go and get your stuff. It'll be 5 minutes. And so I sat there, and I think I was just tying my shoelace or something, and 2 ladies walked in, and one of them says, oh, can you tell me where I could get paint or something like that? And I said, honestly, I couldn't, but you could try those people there that work here. And she was like, oh, sorry, I thought you worked here. And I was like, and she walked off to sort of find out, but the other woman sort of engaged with me, and she was like, you just look really handy, I guess. I was like, well, it must be the mask, because I am fantastic. Not handy.
unless it involves clearing poison ivy, then that's your specialty.
Yeah. I'm good at that.
Oh man.
But on the snow day, I had a dentist appointment that morning, and so they you're gonna like this.
You always have good dentist stories.
Oh yeah, I always have good dentist stories. But so my appointment was at 9 a.m. and I got up sort of 7 as usual, and I was working, and my phone made a noise, which I think was ringing, but nobody ever uses my phone, particularly me, so I didn't recognize it and I ignored it.
It might have been a phone call.
It might have been a phone call. A few minutes later, I got another one, so I was like, I better pay attention to that. So I looked at it, and it was a local number, same number twice, but not in my contacts. Right. But I was like, I wonder if it was like somebody who works at the dentist calling from their home phone to say that the dentist was closed because of the snow. You see, it sort of made sense. Reasonable. So I said, I'll check my voicemail. I've had this phone, I'm going to guess, 3 years now. I discovered I don't know how to check voicemail on my phone. I had no idea. I had to open an app I'd never opened before.
You just kept looking at it going, voicemail.
Yeah, exactly. I have got tons of unlistened to voicemail on there. So it's a complete mystery to me.
You see what I deal with here when I send him text after text and get nothing back. Apparently, if I left him voicemails, it wouldn't be any better.
That wouldn't help for sure. But I do now know how to check my voicemail.
All right.
But yes, sure enough, it turned out they were having a 1 hour delay, so they were asking if they could push me back to 10 o'clock. So I hung around, and then I just lost track of time. I was busy working, and I lost track of time. And it was 9:58, and I was like, oh, I got to go to the dentist. But she's only like a quarter of a mile away, so I just ran out. I was like, I'll be okay. I don't need to call her or anything because I don't know how to use my phone. I'll just jump in the car. But of course I went out and the car was covered in snow, and I was like, ah! So I was like scraping the snow off the car. And then I got in the car and drove there. And of course, we're still under COVID lockdown. So when I got in there, they tried to take my temperature, and I was 93 degrees because I'd been...
Then they had to take a pulse to see if you were still living.
I was so cold from scraping all this snow off.
Crap. Good stuff. Yes, your dentist stories are usually quite entertaining.
Oh yeah, well, good news for you then. I've got 2 more appointments coming up in the next month, so more to come.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's get on with it.
Let's do it.
Down to business. How do we leave Bran? It has been a while. Last time we actually saw Bran, he and Rickon were sharing a dream about seeing Ned in the crypts of Winterfell. That chapter ended with news of Ned's death arriving. So the only direction is up, you'd like to think.
Right, yeah.
So why don't we give him the summary of this one?
All right. Bran's sitting at his window listening to the incessant howling of the direwolves. Everybody's got a theory as to why they won't quiet. Sir Roger Cassell is too busy to have an opinion. Farland, the kennel master, thinks they want to be free. Gage, the cook, thinks they want to hunt. Lewin thinks they're mistaking the comet for the moon. Osha thinks cryptically that the wolves remember things that the maesters have forgotten.
The other thing that everybody has a theory about is this red comet. Osha thinks it signifies blood and fire and nothing good. Septon Chael thinks it comes to slay the season. The White Raven has also made it to the north. Old Nan has the simplest interpretation. Dragons. Okay, Hodor has the simplest interpretation. Hodor.
Wouldn't it be interesting if he had said something else at that point?
Yeah, dragons.
Dragons. Bran is worried that the wolves' pain is a harbinger of more bad news. They howled when Bran fell from the tower and before the news of Ned's death arrived. Has something happened to Robb? Bran howls along with the wolves, which eventually brings Maester Lewin. Bran asks if wolves dream. Yes. The dead? Some think so. Trees? What you talking about, Willis?
Bran thinks trees do dream. He dreams of a weirwood, but admits to himself that he prefers the wolf dreams, where he gets to run and hunt. Lewin offers to help Bran to bed, but Mikken has installed iron bars and Bran can swing himself around his room. Lewin is worried about the tree dreams and urges Bran to spend more time with the other children.
Bran is irked at the arrival of Big Walder and Little Walder Frey. Their fostering is part of the deal that got the Northern Army to cross at the Twins. He welcomed them as the Stark in Winterfell. Lewin said he did a good job, but they're a bit wild and rambunctious, and make him painfully aware of his limitations. They introduce a game called Lord of the Crossing over one of the ponds in the Godswood. It's a bunch of fun, with most of the kids in Winterfell involved by the end. Bran was judge and wolf sitter, but when Little Walder hit Rickon with a stick, which is part of the game, Shaggydog bolted across and bit Little Walder.
Rickon's not a grudge holder and now loves to hang out with the Freys. Shaggy and Summer are confined to the Godswood at night now because of the biting, but their howls permeate the entire castle. Rickon has shown Walder the crypts, which really annoyed Bran. That is a Stark place. Lewin returns with Osha and a sleeping draught. Bran takes it so that he can have a dreamless sleep, but Osha tells him not to fight it. The dreams might be the old gods talking to him. He dreams of the wolves, but they're confined by the walls of Winterfell. The world calls from without, and Bran knows that he must answer.
Yep. That's what we got. Not the most dynamic of chapters, but we shall make do.
Yeah. It's a lot of mysticism, a lot of 8-year-old questioning adults.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not a ton of actual forward motion.
No, not a lot of meat on the bone for us to take big bites into. But...
Yeah. Wait, one thing I noticed actually is we did talk earlier about old women just being treated as witches in sort of olden times, but either Old Nan is just a phenomenal guesser, or she is flat out a witch, because she just knows stuff. She knows the others are coming. She knows the dragons.
Yeah, yeah.
I would consult with this woman.
Right. What are the Powerball numbers for this weekend? Yeah, she also does mention that Bran mentions that Nan told him that the Starks have wolf blood flowing through their veins and that some are stronger than others in the wolf blood category, that is.
Yeah, obviously Bran seems to have this stronger than his siblings.
Yeah, it seems like all the Stark kids seem to have a special relationship with their wolf. Of course, Sansa's lost her wolf, and as has Arya. But Bran's dreams of Summer seem to be some next level connection with his wolf. But of course, Robb seems to have developed a relationship with Greywind where they're in sync even in battle. So, that's a pretty special relationship as well.
But there definitely seems to be this sort of telepathic bond between Bran and Summer.
Yeah.
I was forgetting Summer's name for a second. But I wonder was this forged by Summer saving his life, do you think? Maybe. Or is this just because Bran is becoming sort of a mystic because of his injuries?
It did seem to coincide with the fall, for certain.
Yeah.
And the discovery of the wolves. I mean, it wasn't too long after the discovery of the wolves that these things started happening.
You saying what you just said actually just made me realise that there's sort of like a correlation between the sort of the distance the Stark children are from, not physical distance, but the sort of like emotional distance they are from the sort of family centre and the presence of their wolves in their lives.
Right.
The ones who are still in Winterfell or with their mother or, they are still bonded with their wolves. But the two girls are both missing their wolves and are in the wind,
Right.
They're not.
Yeah, good point. Of course, Rickon dreaming the Ned dream, at the time it did feel like it lessened the Bran dream specialness. But to our knowledge anyway, Rickon, he's 4, so might not even be able to tell us, but he's we've not heard of him having a wolf or a weirwood tree dream, so.
True.
So he's still got that specialness going on, possibly. Of course, we don't know what the other kids are dreaming. We're really only hearing about Bran's dreams.
Absolutely, yeah. So it does feel that the fall has, generally speaking, sort of like made Bran more attuned with the sort of ancient rites and peoples and beliefs of the North. The wolves, the heart trees, the dreams as more than just random noise. And it feels like with Old Nan and Osha in his life, that's just going to sort of like be reinforced, you know. Every time he has a dream, even if it's meaningless, they're going to find meaning in it.
Yeah. They'll probably be battling that out with Maester Lewin, who will be saying, it's just a dream.
It's just a dream, right? Yeah. So Bran thinks that the wolves' pain might be just an echo of his own. They might be missing their siblings in the same way that he is.
Yeah, it's right. At the end of this chapter, when he's dreaming of being Summer, he, in Summer's kind of internal thoughts, thinks, you know, that he thinks that night after night they're searching for prey, a way out, looking for their mother, their littermates, their pack, which in a lot of ways is exactly what Bran and to some extent Rickon is dealing with as well.
Yeah.
While he's hearing the howls at the beginning of the chapter, he remembers that these same wolves howled right before the Raven showed up with the news of Ned's death, and he wonders, who's died now? Has Robb died? Has Jon fallen off the wall? Has Mother died? Has one of his sisters? And he refers to Robb in this section as the King of the North, who used to be my brother Robb. It kind of gives a sense of like he's losing touch with this new character who used to be his brother. Yeah. Now he's like, you know, the King of the North and not so much Robb Stark, his big brother.
Yeah. And the underpinning of all this whole chapter is, as it often is with Bran, it's his missing his family and the feeling helpless, you know, which is exacerbated both by the absence of his family and his inability to do anything about it.
Right. He says to Lewin, referring to his dreams, he said, I'd sooner be a wolf. If I was, I could find Arya and Sansa and save them. I could fight alongside Robb with Greywind and kill the Kingslayer, and then everyone could come home. And, you know, you could just imagine a helpless 8-year-old just wanting his family back and daydreaming and apparently night dreaming as well about, if I could just actually be a wolf, then I could save everybody and I could bring everybody back home and we'd all be together again.
Yeah, I mean, if this book didn't have others and White Walkers and dragons in it, you might see all of these dreams as just like, you know, wish fulfillment.
Right.
For Bran. You wouldn't think there was anything to them.
Yeah.
It would be like, yeah, any kid would have those dreams because that's what he wants, but
exactly.
It ain't going to happen, you know.
Yeah.
But the nature of the book gives us some, at least a kernel of belief that something might come of all this.
Right. You have to imagine an 8-year-old who's been abandoned by his entire family, who not only as an 8-year-old is unable to help, but physically he's not able to move on his own. That's just, you know, the amount of vulnerability and frustration that must create would be a lot.
Yeah. And then that frustration builds with the presence of the two Walder Freys. You know, he's been welcoming to them, but they've shown up and they're a little bit like Rickon. They want to play rough. They come up with this cool new game. Everyone in Winterfell's having a great time with it, and all he gets to do is, you know, watch and judge and look after the direwolves.
Yeah, and he says that as soon as the game started, they kind of forgot. He was supposed to be judging whether or not someone said mayhaps, which is part of the rules of the game. And he said as soon as it started, they forgot he was there in the first place. So, So, you know, as you mentioned in the summary, things go a little bit wrong here, and Shaggydog ends up biting little Walder. And, you know, but apparently Rickon thought that was cool because now they're like a pack, Rickon and the two Walders. They're running amok around Winterfell and, you know, doing things that Bran would probably love to be doing. And, you know, now Rickon's probably looking up to these Walders when before Rickon was probably looking up to Bran. So, and then it all culminates with Rickon taking the Walders down into the crypts, which really feels like a violation to Bran. But you might wonder if Bran was with them, if he had his legs and he was with them, he might have been involved and not felt as
Enjoy showing it off too. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
but the fact that he can't really makes it feel like a violation to him. And one thing Rickon says, so the Walders are explaining how they're both named Walder, but they're not alone. There's other Walders. There are other Walder Freys. And Rickon, at this point, before he decides he really likes these Walders, he says, "We have our own names in Winterfell." And I thought, that's not entirely true. I mean, there's not a bunch of different names right now, but there are 17 named Brans since Bran the Builder.
Right.
So more than
and Rickon often gets forgotten what his name is at all. So,
right. So there's not a bunch of Brans at the moment, but there seems to be a Bran just about every generation.
Well, but the comparison still holds though, because I mean, there's been 17 Bran Starks in history. There's 17 Walder Freys right this second.
Right
you know?
Yeah, true. Good point. So, speaking of the Walders, so Little Walder goes through and explains all the other Walders. And first of all, what we learn is that Big Walder is older by 52 days, but he is significantly smaller than Little Walder.
Than Little Walder, yes.
So he's Big Walder only because he's slightly older. Little Walder is actually much larger. But, so Big Walder explains that he is Jamis Frey's son, and Jamis is the 15th child and 13th son of Lord Walder Frey, and his mother was Alyssa Blackwood. Jamis is the second son of 5 kids of Alyssa and Lord Walder. And then Little Walder, his father is Merritt, and he is the 11th child and 9th son of Lord Walder.
Merritt is,
yes.
Right,
and Merritt's mom was Amari Crakehall. And people in her line, the Crakehall Frey line, tend to have the Crakehall look, which is big-boned and strong. So Little Walder fits the description pretty well, as he's
right. Although his name doesn't.
Yes, exactly. And also in the Cat chapter where she met Walder Frey, he mentions that he was not exactly sure if 2 of his sons, whose mother was his Crakehall wife, Amari Crakehall, were actually his, because he said that all Crakehall women, the term he uses, are sluts.
Oh, but what he really means is they all the children take after her, so he can't be sure.
Yeah, maybe. Yes, that's a good point.
Yeah.
And then he lists the other Walders at the moment. We've got Black Walder. His dad is Ryman Frey, and Ryman Frey is the eldest son of Sir Stevron, who is the heir to Walder Frey. So that makes Black Walder 4th in line because he has an older brother, Edwin. So
gotcha.
Stevron is first in line, then Ryman, then Edwin, then Black Walder.
Gotcha.
Then we get Red Walder. His dad is Aemon Frey. He's the 2nd son of Lord Walder Frey. And Red Walder is actually a cousin of our Lannisters, Cersei, Jaime, and Tyrion, because Red Walder's mother is Jenna Lannister, Tywin's younger sister. And he is dubbed Red Walder due to the red in the Lannister coat of arms. So that's how he got his name. And then we've got Walder Rivers. He's the eldest natural-born child of Lord Walder. And one of Walder Rivers' daughters is one of the Waldas that Big Walder mentions in this chapter. So,
Walder, female name, Walda. Walder.
Yes, exactly.
Right, gotcha.
So there you go. It's a little pre-background section.
Yeah. So Sir Roderick has given the 2 Walders Jon's old chamber, because he's not coming back. Apparently not noticing Benjen's arrangement. Of course, Benjen was a Stark, and Jon is a Snow.
True. Yes.
But Ben does appear to be able to come back at will, so yes, I do take your point.
Yes. Well, with Robb now being the King of the North, and us knowing how close he and Jon are, you might imagine, unless Cat prevents it, that he might have the same deal with Jon, calling Jon down at a moment's notice.
Of course, Benjen is first ranger of the Night's Watch. Jon needs to get, move up the pecking order before he can start swanning off to Winterfell.
Good point. Yeah, and there's some crazy Winterfell names mentioned in this chapter. We've got Hayhead, who's the guard that comes and checks on Bran. Bran mentions Alebelly. Yes, you heard me right, Alebelly. He is another guard in Winterfell. Then we've got a boy named Turnip. And we've got Tom, too. Tom, Too, who is the son of Fat Tom, who we know died with Ned in King's Landing. So
I have to say, these names do not strike me as a great fighting force. I mean, I realize they're not... It just... We've talked before about how vulnerable Winterfell might be to an attack, and you're not really filling me with confidence if this is the names of the guards.
We've got Hayhead. We've got Hayhead and Alebelly squaring off against the Kingslayer.
Yeah. All right, so let me ask you. We're jumping around a little bit in this chapter, but the chapter jumped around in time so much that it's not worth trying to be linear. What did Osha mean when she said that the wolves have more wit than his maester, Lewin, and no truths that Lewin has forgotten? What was she talking about then? Because he was asking her why they were crying, right?
Yeah.
And Lewin had said that he thought they were crying because...
of the comet.
Of the comet, yeah.
They were confusing the comet with the moon.
That's right, confusing the comet with the moon, which is a terrible suggestion, by the way. I mean, to be clear, this is a comet. It's not shaped like the moon. It's red and it's visible in the daytime. Now, it has very few things in common with the moon. And plus, the moon in the daytime, I don't think wolves howl at the moon in the daytime. They howl at the moon at night.
True. Yep, solid point. Now, the only thing that I noticed that doesn't necessarily back up his theory, but just the idea that maybe they're howling because of the comet, is that Old Nan, who is basically blind, says she can't see the comet, but she can smell it. And of course, this is just a claim she's making. But if she can smell it, surely the wolves would be able to smell that there's something going on, and maybe they're howling at that new scent. But I don't think that's what Osha means. I'm just saying...
No. So, yes. Okay, first of all, Old Nan cannot smell that comet. Neither can the wolves. It's a comet. It isn't not a comet. It's a comet. But what does Osha mean? I mean, like...
Old Nan is known for her wild stories, so it is possible she's just making that up.
But also her prescience, so...
It's true.
But I just don't see it. The wolves have got more wit than the maester, and they know truths that he's forgotten. I can't see any meaning to that, other than just being a little bit mystical.
Yeah, I think, as most times when dealing with things that Osha says, it goes to the mystical creatures that she and Lewin are at odds of whether they are still in existence or not. Children of the forest, giants, others. I think what she might be getting at is this comet is like signifying the others are coming, things are about to get really bad. And that's why Maester Lewin would never think of something like that, because he has forgotten. The Maesters have forgotten that these things existed.
But the wolves are howling at the comet for that reason. They know that it is the prelude to the arrival of the others.
I think that's what she's getting at. But I also think if you were to hold a Rorschach test in front of her, she would see others in pretty much every picture.
She ran away from the north because of the others. So yes.
But so Lewin eventually brings Bran this dreamless sleep concoction, and Bran seems kind of excited to take it. Lewin says this will give you a dreamless sleep, and he's like, really, will it? Like he's looking forward to it. And I wondered why he seemed so excited to have a dreamless sleep, because it seems like he enjoys the wolf dreams, and at the beginning of this dream, he gets very excited that he's walking. It's kind of like in italics in the text that he's walking, and it seems like it might be a good outlet for him dream of running and chasing prey and things like that. But maybe it's too painful when he wakes that, maybe it's just like reminding every morning that I can't move. Or maybe he likes the wolf dreams, but he's afraid of the tree dreams because he doesn't seem to care very much for those.
I have just a point about this. Whenever you ask these rhetorical questions, I find I always give the most mundane, prosaic answer to these questions. So, he said in the chapter that everybody in Winterfell is struggling to sleep because of the noise of the direwolves. They're keeping everybody up all night. So maybe he's just tired.
Maybe he doesn't want to hunt prey and run around. He just wants to sleep.
I just want one night where I can sleep.
Maybe that could be it.
Yeah.
It could be it.
So Osha suggests not fighting against the dreams. She's seen him talking to the heart tree, and maybe the dreams are the gods trying to talk back to him.
Yeah, it goes back to the conversation that they had in the Godswood, in the chapter where Robb left. She noticed that Bran's praying to the trees a lot, and she says she can hear the gods replying in the rustling of the leaves in the wind. He asks, well, what are they saying? And she says they're sad because they can't help your brother Robb in the south because all the weirwoods have been cut down.
Yeah. And Osha did say at one point that some dreams are just dreams. So those are the ones that she couldn't tie to the others, presumably.
Right.
But she then said, but some aren't.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it very well could be. I mean, he did say that the tree calls out to him, the weirwood tree calls out to him in his dream, which, that's kind of creepy. But if not the gods trying to reach out to him, maybe it's a green seer. Now, they're supposedly gone, but Osha says that the children of the forest still exist, so could be. But regardless, a tree calling out to you in a dream would be a rather scary thing.
We have a good visual. Having seen the show, we have a good visual of the trees with the carved faces. They're a little bit scary, and if you were 8 years old, they'd be pretty terrifying if they started talking to you. Yeah.
Especially, if they're calling out to you.
Yeah. So the wolves are now confined to the Godswood at night because of Shaggy biting little Walder. Bran argues that it's not fair. Summer didn't bite anyone. But Luwin does remind him that he did savage a man right in that very room. But again, the argument against that is, yes, to save my life.
Exactly. Yeah. I kind of have to side with Bran on this one. He was saving both Bran and Kat's life there. Not quite the same as all the biting that Shaggy's done. But I think in this chapter, again, we see that Rickon does have pretty good control over Shaggy. Shaggy wants to go rushing in with him to play the game, and Rickon says, no, wolves can't play this game. You go sit with Bran. And Shaggy does go sit with Bran. It's just that Rickon's 4, and so doesn't have the ability to foresee issues might arise and head them off before they get there.
And Shaggy is a direwolf who can't be controlled. That's the other aspect of that. Rickon's 4 and doesn't know to control the direwolf. The direwolf is a direwolf and doesn't know it needs to be controlled.
Right. I'm still putting this on the adults for taking no ownership of training the menacing direwolf.
So the final dream, the wolves are confined and they wander around the Godswood. Bran is sort of in Summer's body, sort of smelling around. They sniff the barred gates and the walls. They mark the trees. They chase the squirrels. But, and this is a quote, beyond the wall still stands Winterfell, and beyond that the true world calls him, and he knows he must answer or die. So, my question is, who's he here? Is he Summer or is he Bran?
Yep. That is the question.
That was an either-or question, not a yes-no question.
Well, I'll say this. You remember in one of Bran's dreams, the three-eyed raven, when Bran saw the scary thing in the north, the three-eyed raven said to Bran, now you know why you must live. So it's possible that both of them need to get out of Winterfell to go deal with whatever is coming from the north, because for some reason the three-eyed raven believes that Bran plays some sort of role. Now, as we discussed in that chapter, it may just be continually telling people winter is coming. That's your job.
Yeah.
But there may be some bigger role that both of them must play together. I don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know yet at all, but I can't tell you which he's referring to here, unfortunately.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Good answer. Just to steal a point that you made, actually, which I really liked, is in the dream, he isn't Bran in Summer's body. He is Summer.
Right.
He's running around and he is Summer. He's not sort of giving himself the body of Summer. He's Summer, and he's seeing through Summer's eyes, which is a slightly different thing than seeing yourself as a wolf that could run around.
Yes, exactly. I think I felt like that was an important distinction. Now, this is I believe it's the first dream we've gotten of Bran being in Summer's body, but he definitely was. He wasn't Bran, like looking around going, hey, there's my room up there.
Right.
He was Summer, having Summer's thoughts. He was thinking about Man Stone, referring to the walls. And he did mention the name Winterfell, but I mean, he can learn stay and come. He can learn the term Winterfell.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
But ultimately, it certainly does give a feeling that Winterfell might not be safe for one or both of them. That's kind of what another thing you could take from that last sentence of the chapter there.
Yeah. So that's about it. You've got some background for me here, which looks interesting.
I do. So, like Bran and the Walders, Rickon isn't the first of his name either. So here's some info about a pair of Rickons earlier in the Stark line. The elder Rickon was born around 96 AC-ish, about 200 years ago, and he was the son of a Benjen. How about that? He lived during the reign of Viserys I Targaryen, and Rickon was Lord of Winterfell like his father. He had two sons, Cregan and an unnamed second son. It's also rumored that he had a bastard daughter named Sarah Snow, but that fact has been debated. Unfortunately, Rickon died young, passing away in 121 AC, while his heir, Cregan, was only 13. So Rickon's younger brother, Bernard, served as regent. Bernard seemed to be a fan of that role because he was rather slow to vacate it when Cregan came of age. And eventually, Cregan actually had to rise up against his uncle to take his lordship of Winterfell that was owed to him. And we talked about Cregan in the last Bran chapter of Game of Thrones. He was one of the lords mentioned when they were walking through the crypts before Shaggy bit Lewin.
Right.
Now, Cregan had a boatload of kids, 10 actually, and one, of course, was named Brandon, because you can't go a generation without a Brandon.
True.
However, he had only one with his first wife and childhood friend, Ara Nore. Sadly, Ara died in childbirth in 128 AC, and he named the child Rickon after his father.
Right.
During the Dance of the Dragons, Lord Cregan made a pact with Prince Jacaerys Valerian to throw Stark support behind the Blacks. Remember, there were the Green and the Blacks Targaryen factions during the Dance of the Dragon. So the Blacks would be backing Jaehaerys' mother, Queen Rhaenyra. The pact was known as the Pact of Ice and Fire. And part of the deal was that the firstborn daughter of Prince Jacaerys was to be sent at age 7 to Winterfell to be fostered until old enough to marry young Rickon.
Oh, there you go.
Sadly, the arrangement was never fulfilled as Prince Jacaerys died childless at the Battle of the Gullet in 130 AC. Rickon did marry, though. He married a Manderly, Jane Manderly, and had 2 daughters, and the first one was named, yep, you guessed it, Sansa.
Oh.
Not Rickon or Walder. The second daughter was Serena, I guess. The Stark Targaryen alliance didn't end there. Rickon fought alongside the young dragon, Daeron Targaryen, in the Conquest of Dorne. If you may remember, in the very first Jon chapter in A Game of Thrones, it was the young dragon that Jon mentioned was his idol.
I do remember.
But Rickon died outside of Sunspear and Dorne, never having become Lord of Winterfell, much to the sadness of the North.
Well, still a chance for this one. So, comparison with the television show for this chapter. This is probably one of the biggest deviations we've had thus far. This is sort of completely recast. We see Bran and Maester Luwin holding court in Winterfell and ruling on some minor business of sort of like various lesser liege lords. Then we cut to a dream of a wolf in the Godswood, but there's no sense of confinement or frustration or anything like that. The dream sort of is basically the wolf looking into the pond and seeing its own reflection. There's no phrase that I don't think the phrase Big and Little Walder Frey, I don't think they even happen in the TV show. There's no Rickon in these scenes. And then we just have Bran, Osha and Hodor in the Godswood discussing the comet. And it's Osha, not Old Nan, who says it's dragons. Bran stares into the pond like he's trying to see Summer's face again.
Okay, I get it, yeah.
The reflection is just his own face. And I think basically like us, the show creators struggle to extract very much out of this chapter. Because there just isn't that much to go on.
A few glances into the water and mention of dragons and then move on.
Yeah, exactly. So pedantry, I couldn't see an awful lot here, but I will say that if you've got I'm going to guess 10 stone, because we like to speak in stones.
Sure, yep.
Direwolf, and you want it to not bite people, perhaps not leaving it in the hands of a small crippled child is a good idea.
Yes, especially while play sword fighting.
Exactly, because it's going to get excited by the play sword fighting.
Yes.
When me and my son wrestle, our dogs go crazy.
Yeah, same here.
I know this. Yeah. So just a
point.
thought.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, that's not pedantry for the book. That's pedantry for the children. If you're going to play Lord of the Crossing, just have the wolves in a different room.
Yeah. See, that's where being 4 comes into play. He doesn't have the foresight to see. Someone older needs to say, no, you can't take that wolf in there. Things are going to go bad.
Gotcha.
Should be the kennel master. He knows dogs pretty well. He should have seen that coming.
Exactly. So, news and notes. So we've got an interview coming up with a Dr. Kirk Honda, who's a psychotherapist, and he's going to help us analyse young King Joffrey Baratheon and cast a bit of shade his way, I hope.
Yes, very
sympathy. Exciting. Or sympathy, I'm not sure. Maybe he's going to say...
Yes.
Maybe he will call him King Joffrey the Misunderstood.
Could be. Very much could be. Yes, I've been hinting to this on our social media empire about something that we are working to put together. I think it's concrete enough for us to be talking about it now, so...
I love it when we get the academics involved.
Yes.
And I'm sure they love talking to us bungling amateurs.
Yes, it should be very fun. I was very excited when he agreed to come on our show and talk with us. We may try and slide a few other questions in there, but you know, that's
once we've got him on the call, we might as well chit chat. Yeah. That's going to be great. We're really grateful to him for doing it as well.
Yes, very much so. In other news, in TV news, HBO is in discussions for a Robert's Rebellion prequel. But the problem is that some scenes from that time period have already been shot in the Game of Thrones TV show, so they might need to cast some of the same actors, such as Robert Aramayo as young Ned. You know, I mean, we can suspend our belief if it's a different person.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, choose any actor who looks like a young Sean Bean, you'll be fine. People are not going to hold that against you.
But they're also in discussions about a Dunk and Egg prequel as well. So, and that's set 90 years before Game of Thrones, so that's even before Robert's Rebellion, obviously. However, the prequel about the beginnings of the White Walkers was axed after the HBO folks saw the pilot. And unfortunately, there are no sequels being discussed to my knowledge.
Wait, they just got to watch the pilot and we don't?
I know! How
feels a little bit unfair, yeah. It's not hurting anyone if we get to see it, right?
Just put it out there. Put it on HBO Max. Let us just see
Let us be a judge of this. Yeah.
Right. You can have a voting thing. Thumbs up, thumbs down. A cool thing I stumbled onto this week was Well, so there's a website called Westeros.org. Now that I've known about for a long while. It's a huge A Song of Ice and Fire website run by Elio M. Garcia and Linda Antonsen. They were actually the co-authors of A World of Ice and Fire with George Martin. And the website has just so much really good, useful content. But recently, I discovered that last year they did some Westeros travel guide videos. And the first one is on the north. And I watched it. It was really cool. It was really well done. So I will share that on our social medias.
Oh, that sounds cool. I mean, like, we can't actually travel anywhere. We might as well have travel guides to fictional places.
Exactly.
Seems reasonable. So I'll just give a shout out to a viewer of our YouTube channel, Elia Caldi, who commented on our 50th episode, asking me what movie I recommended, and I told him it was Dear Zachary, and it was interesting. He's French, and he was asking me what I'd said. He couldn't quite catch what I said, and he thought I'd said, what did he think I'd said?
Oh yeah.
Divergence or something like that. I can't remember precisely what it was.
I can't either.
He didn't understand what I'd said, which is perfectly reasonable. But the movie I recommended was Dear Zachary, and I haven't heard back from him since I recommended he watch it, so that might be a bad sign.
Stop listening to us after
exactly.
Exactly. So now it's time for our newest segment where I read one of our reviews.
Let me interject here, Mackelly. You haven't had to make any up yet. These are all still real.
These are all real.
Okay,
in fact,
good.
This one was I chose. This one was actually one of our very latest reviews. It was just done earlier this past weekend, actually, and I couldn't resist but reading this one. And
is it going to make me cry?
I didn't put it on there. You notice on the notes, it doesn't.
It's not there. I know. So, I think you're going to try and make me cry, aren't you? That's what you're going to do.
So it's from. And this is from Apple Podcasts, and the reviewer is Chip Raynor. Chip Raynor. The review goes something like this: Subject: Best podcast I have ever listened to. So that caught my attention.
Yeah, it would.
Being a typical Gen Z delinquent, I haven't read the books, but I have watched the show. However, these guys have piqued my interest. They are very informative and hilarious with their analysis of each chapter. Simon, especially, seems to be one of the funniest people ever. So,
I feel bad for you, Mackelly. I think you're the funny one.
I have no resentment towards this review because I assume you wrote it. So.
Yes, that's right.
In fact, I showed this to Stacy right before I came down to record. I showed her what I was going to do, and she goes, I wish I could be a fly on the wall so I could hear how you tell stories. And I was like, funny enough, we actually put this whole conversation on the internet. You can listen to it anytime you want.
I'm not listening to the podcast. I just like to be a fly on the wall. Yeah. I want to hear the unedited version. Yes. No. Wait. I definitely didn't write that. There was too much cool youth talk in there. It can't possibly have been me.
I see what you mean. I do see what you mean.
It would have to be ghostwritten by someone for me.
You got Lucas to write it for you, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. But he would not have said nice things. Let's be honest.
So, thank you, Chip Raynor. That was really fun. That was really cool. That's
awesome. All right, so let's conclude. So Bran continues to flirt with communing with the direwolves. Not sure it means anything yet, but hey, there's magic in their world. Maybe there is. Maybe there's something to it. At least his dreams do give him the thrill of movement that he's denied in his waking self.
Right. Yeah. Of course, it might be wearing him out in his dreams, and that's why he wants the dreamless.
Right.
The sleepless.
I'll just talk to the tree tonight. Yes.
The dreamless. I can't get it right. The dreamless sleep drought. Good Lord, forget it.
Drought.
I give up. If you'd like to leave us a review, please. I'm done. Yeah, it definitely does seem like if left unchecked, Rickon and the Freys might just demolish Winterfell. It stood for like tens of thousands of years, but they might bring it down.
Yeah. The good news is that the three of them maybe are more noticeable than the one used to be.
Yes, that's true.
The direwolves are going to drive everyone crazy, but heaven help the person who decides to kill the direwolves, because they seem pretty fierce now.
Yes, yes. You know, I was thinking, if they're going to keep these wolves locked up, they might as well just let them outside, like not in the Godswood, just let them out. Like, what is the purpose of keeping these wolves locked up in such a small place?
I had the same thought. I was like, just let them run free. It's not like they cower in kennels overnight. They'd be happy to hunt all night long, come back and sleep in the kennels during the day.
I'd say, I guess they worry about the villagers in the winter town, but it's mostly empty still, I would imagine.
Right,
although it might be starting to fill up now that summer has officially ended, but...
You could put up a sign saying, direwolves at large in this area, lock your doors at night,
Beware of direwolves.
Yeah. Bran still seems to have a mental block on who pushed him out of the window. That does not appear to have abated in any way. At one point in this, he has the same sort of thoughts about, thinking about that moment and not being able to face or remember the incident itself.
You remember I think it was the dream when he was climbing the tower, not so much the one when he was falling. He started to have a memory about a golden person pushing him out a window, and the raven said, "Stop! Don't think about that. You don't need to worry about that right now."
Yeah,
and that's kind of the last we've heard of him even thinking about it. So you'd think with how vivid his dreams are, he might dream about that situation and maybe start to get some ideas, but nothing yet.
Yeah, but the old gods are keeping him from that, it seems.
It does seem, yeah.
And Bran's dreams, well, either he wants to get out of Winterfell and have the kind of experiences he would have had but for his fall, or they are a portent of the dangers from without. But certainly they seem to be telling him that he and Summer need to get out of there.
Yes, that part seems to be pretty clear. You gotta get out and deal with what's out there or die. So all right. So we got through it. Hopefully we found some interesting nuggets for everyone.
Yeah. As always, you can reach us at ghost.harrenhal@gmail.com and follow us on Twitter at ghostharrenhal. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.
That's right. And if you wouldn't mind going out and leaving us a 5-star rate and or a glowing review, such as Chip Raynor, we would very much appreciate it. And hey, you might get it read over these airwaves.
Yeah, for sure. All right, thanks for listening.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.